Ray. Wrong. Okay. This progress is a part of Christian Reek Central Network. And Reek wrong. Hey, Scoop, what are you doing, man? I don't know. I'm supposed to be reading an ad. All right, hold on. Give me it. Okay. All right. This podcast is part of the Christian Geek Central Network at ChristianGeekCentral.com.
Cartoons, the animated frontier. These are the voyages of the Cellcast podcast. Its continuing mission to explore strange new cartoons, to seek out new animation styles and new creative storytelling methods, to boldly go where so few ever go again. Welcome to another episode of The Cellcast,
the animated series.
Joining me today is a man who's just out there looking for some tech, Jacob.
Oh, whiskers. Why, thank you. Like, introduce our co-host, a man who feels like he's in second place. Welcome, Drew.
And yet I'm firstborn.
Weird, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't at all.
It doesn't make any sense in the show either.
No, it doesn't.
So yeah, how are you doing, Jacob?
Man, I am doing very well. Very, very well. Very excited to get into this series. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually interested in this also because, like we said in the prologue, I know virtually nothing about Thundercats.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us what we are actually reviewing today?
All right. So we are reviewing the first episode of Thundercats 2011, episode 1, Omens Part 1.
Alrighty.
All right. Let me get to it. This episode first aired July 29th, 2011. It was directed by
Yoshiharu Ashino and Sean Song.
All right. So official summary from the WB.
Mm-hmm.
An epic, all-new imagining of a classic and beloved 1980s animated series, Thundercats, tells the story of the hero's journey to fulfill his ultimate destiny.
Well, that's the summary of the show.
That is true.
I mean, in this episode, what we get to see, and admittedly, that's what Hulu said, too, for Omens Part 1.
Right.
But what we get to see is Lion-O going out to get some tech from the black market, essentially.
Pretty much.
Running into Chitara.
Yeah.
And not knowing who she is.
True.
We get to see Kit and Kat steal some stuff during a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And
during a festival.
We get to see was it Green? Is that the
Green?
Gwen? I don't remember the guy's name.
You're talking about Groon.
Groon, yeah, sorry. It's spelled like green.
Yeah,
like the
General Groon.
The green of Green, Texas, anyway.
Yeah.
We get to see General Groon. He tells us Panthro died died in combat, and he's brought back this giant rock with gold nuggets all through it. And then it ends with Lion-O letting these two lizards go that he thinks that his idea is that Lion-O let them go because maybe the diplomatic things with the lizard people would go better if they were kinder.
Yeah,
not just warlike.
Exactly.
And I think that would have been correct had he done that if the plans had already not been set in motion.
Very true.
I think he had the right idea, just bad timing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the gold rocks you're referring to is called Thundranium.
They never said this.
They did.
They never said the word Thundranium in the episode.
Okay, well, never mind. Well, it's Thundercats.
That I remember. I will take your word for it.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't. I just skipped over it. But I mean, I do keep the subtitles on. So.
Right.
And it's not like Thunder doesn't come up regularly.
Yeah, quite a bit.
I just remember looking at it and going, those are some ugly-looking jewels.
Yeah, a little bit.
Those are some ugly-looking crystals. Are we sure that's not sulfur? Kind of looks like sulfur. Doesn't matter, but we'll get into that in the next episode.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So, all right, going into trivia, there's quite a bit of trivia in this movie. Our movie, TV show. Well, correction, there isn't a whole lot.
There's just 2 bits.
There's 2 bits. Well, one, we do have a lot of recurring characters from the original series with completely different story arcs. The fact that Jaga was an elder in the original. He was an elder, and in this one, he's a cleric.
Well, he's the leader of the clerics.
Yeah, he's the leader of the clerics. You have Jatara, who's just... She was part of the I believe it was of the elders or the High Council in the original. And here she's a high cleric.
Not that we know that by the end of this episode.
Yeah,
although it's very obviously hinting of that.
Yeah, it is very much hinting of that. We have a new change from the original series, and this one, Lion-O and Tiger are brothers, or in this case, half brothers. That was an interesting development when I first saw it. I was like, really? Okay, that's interesting. Let me think. Wily Cat. Apparently in the
Aladdin.
Aladdin.
They are basically Aladdin.
Yeah, Aladdin. I'll give you that.
With a magic ring flute thing that can make people susceptible to their wily ways.
Yeah, that's true. That's Wily Kit could originally do that. Originally, it could hypnose people in certain ways with music, but that was an interesting throwback. Groon. Well, we'll get into Groon when we get into episode 2.
Right. We also get the fact that Snarf
does
not talk. He is literally a cat.
Yeah.
He's an alien cat, and he just meows. And
he pseudo talks. I've heard people like, oh no, he doesn't talk. But, like, he does talk in a way.
He does have a voice actress.
Yeah.
So, continue.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking up something else, but
there's such a dramatic difference in the storytelling, in the characterizations, the world building. Oh, my gosh. Like, yeah, in the original series, we got some world building, but not to this extent. The fact to be, like, we're still on... oh, come on.
Third Earth?
Yeah, we're on Third Earth, but it's almost like they were there for thousands of years. And we'll learn that later on in the series, why they're on Third Earth. But in general, I was very surprised by the depth and layer and the much more mature storytelling in this show. Yeah, with season 1, with Lion-O being this very young kid, unlike in the original, he was a kid, but they crash land on Third Earth, and he becomes a man, but still a kid at heart. So in this one, he is a prince who is very distracted by tech and things of old. Mm-hmm. Like always, there's always this idea of pushing the Book of Omens. That's why Groot and Panthro went out to go find the Book of Omens. And I find this episode so well done because we have so much development within one episode. Because you find sometimes it takes a whole season to develop everything. And this, we've got everything now. We got the fact that we've got the lizards and the cats are the number one species on the planet.
This is one of the advantages you get with actually having an origin story movie.
Agreed.
Where you actually start at the beginning of the story instead of starting what's known as in media res, which is Latin for in the middle, which A lot of shows do, because you can get to the meat of the show itself. And in a lot of cases, the pilot is of the type of stories you can normally expect in a show. So, since that's usually where they start, that's why you get things like... It's like the way when you look... I hate to keep bringing up Adventure Time, because I don't really like Adventure Time.
Okay.
But Adventure Time just starts as a normal episode. There's no... It just drops you in the middle of it. Doesn't tell you what's going on, who any of these people are. It's just, and here's a weird episode.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't do that. This is like, okay, here's all the characters. Here's each character gets its nice own little intro.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little bit about the world building. Here's a few call outs to some things you need to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
And since you're telling the story from the beginning, you don't have these times where it's like, oh, now we've got to somehow introduce this concept and have it not feel like we just brought it out of nowhere.
Right.
Here, it's like, no, this is how the world is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we're starting it. So, yeah. Also, I just did some looking. The voice actress, who is the voice of Snarf, she also voiced a character in a movie we saw this year for the Cellcast.
Really?
In Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, she was the voice of Mew.
Okay, interesting.
Also,
that makes sense.
And also the voice of Togepi.
Okay.
The little Pokemon that Misty was carrying around.
Oh, okay. All right, so the one little bit of trivia, now I know probably there's some huge fans out there be like, oh, you're missing this, but the one key one I remember...
The big one, everyone...
that when Lion-O goes into the black market
that's not the big one I thought you were going to say, but go ahead.
But the when you're looking around the tech that's all around there that Jitaro is calling junk, you find a Robo-Bear hand or paw.
Okay.
All right, so what was the one you were thinking of?
How about the fact that the king is voiced by the original Lion-O?
That is good. That's a good call.
That's what I would consider the big one, because I was sitting there watching and going, I know this voice. I know this voice. I didn't watch the original show, so I didn't think about that, except I saw the opening so many times, because the opening is awesome.
Right.
Of the original show. But I was like, I know this voice. Why do I know this voice? And it was not until the next episode that I realized it was Lion-O. It was the original Lion-O.
Yeah, so what he's referring to is Larry Kinney, who originally voiced Lion-O from the original Thundercats. He doesn't reprise his role, but he reprises saying...
It is a cameo role.
And it is a cameo role.
Since he is playing Lion-O's father, we do kind of get this nice passing of the torch, per se.
Yes. And it's got a really good cast, I would say. The fact that like you have Jules Bass, consulting producer, and Arthur Rankin Jr., a.k.a. Frankenbass. Rankinbass. I always called Frankenbass. I don't know why. Rankinbass, the production company who did the original. Apparently, some of the people are still involved with this production. That was fascinating. All right. Cast. Really? Writing. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, we have voice acting by Will Freely, who played Lion-O, but also he's done a ton of other stuff, including... come on. Really? Wow, I'm drawing it. I'm terrible at this. Anyways, skip that.
Well, let me see it.
No. But it does give you any more information than that. It's Will Freely. He did. He was Batman Beyond. He was the voice of
Terry.
Yeah, Terry McGinnis. Thank you. His voice, Terry McGinnis. Ron Stoppable from Kim Possible, and several others. Be like, you just have so many really good.
So, like you said, you've got your Robo Teddy Bear thing.
Yeah, Robo. I mean,
I have to ask. You said Robo Bear Teddy Bear thing, and you have to remember, I didn't watch the original show.
Okay,
so I'm sitting here going, "There's a robotic teddy bear."
Yes, there are robotic teddy bears.
Okay,
they're called Robo Bears.
Okay, Robo-Bear. Tell me about the Robo-Bear.
Okay, a Robo-Bear.
Since there's a cameo of a Robo-Bear in this thing, it was apparently a big deal.
Yeah, so Robo-Bear...
Big enough deal that you thought it was more important than the original voice actor for Lion-O having a cameo.
Well, the fact that the Robo-Bears are from Third Earth in the original cartoon, they are like I said, a robot bear that wind up helping the Thundercats throughout most of the series. They eventually wind up building Thundercats' lair. And so to have a small cameo of a Robo-Bear paw in this shop, I thought was very interesting.
Okay.
And the fact to be like they do a return of the Robo-Bears in this series.
Okay, then.
All right.
Let's see. We usually don't have this much trouble.
No, we don't.
Of course, usually we just watch the episode of right before.
Right.
That's the weird thing about this episode is it's not made to be seen by itself.
No,
even though it's edited to be by itself because they had to fit it into the standard 30-minute block.
Right.
It's designed to be watched with part 2.
Yeah.
And you can tell this by how many times the commercial break fade out seemed to be right in the middle of a scene.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember there was one point where Lion-O's dad says, "What's going on here?" And before the camera would shift to actually show Lion-O's dad talking, you see the fade out and it comes back in, and instead of repeating the line, it's just like they keep continuing. And it's like, that was a weird edit. Oh, it's because you paid the lowest person on staff to edit this into a 30-minute episode, into 2 30-minute episodes. That's why it's weird.
Yeah.
You didn't design it like this. I mean, there's a lot of cool little designs. I especially liked the arena. Yeah. Where they had the games. Mm-hmm. And the bell. That aspect was interesting. And of course, well, we'll get to that later on. Mm-hmm. I keep wanting to bring up part 2.
Yeah, we'll get there when we'll get there.
We will, yes. But that's the thing is this episode is really almost here is a day in the life of the kingdom. Yeah. We get to see Lion-O act a little immature. Lion-O's trying to step up and do to actually be the prince that he's supposed to be, but what he thinks is different from what everyone else thinks should happen. Yeah. So it is mostly us learning about how Lion-O looks at the world differently than everybody else. Mm-hmm. We do get a little bit of foreshadowing of Mum-Ra. We do. In when he does the Eye of Thunder. Well, I was thinking the whole process when he first gets the sword and is swinging it around, and apparently happens to hold it up to his face, or maybe the ceremony requires him to hold it up to his face. He doesn't say what I thought anything to actually activate it. It just activates on its own, and he gets a face full of purple mummy before they go, "Why did you stop looking? Why did you stop?" He says, "I saw something." It's like, "What did you see?" Those ladies over there. That's all I saw. It was just those cute chicks.
Yeah, those cute cat ladies.
Yes. There's a word there's a word I want to use, but that would get me in trouble. I'm cutting that out. I was like, I'm sure I didn't see anything. It's like, and you could just see the look on the cleric's Tara?
Jatara?
No, not Tara. Jarrow? The head cleric.
Oh, you're talking about hold on. Now you got me drawing a blank. Jaga. You can just kind of tell the look on Jaga's face, like, "Oh, sure, you didn't see anything, did you?" And the Claudius was disappointed. Everybody was disappointed.
I didn't see anything. It says, and I didn't say anything. That just means, yeah, you'll know. You know exactly what happened. You're just letting him come to it of his own accord, where if you would have forced him to talk right then and there, maybe Mum-Ra was coming.
Yeah. But immaturity eventually grows.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the gist of the episode, I think. Like
pretty much.
yeah.
I mean, we do get to meet, like I said earlier, we do get to meet Chitara, but it's only really hinted that the reason she was behind, she was essentially stalking Lion-O in the first place.
Yeah.
It's only really hinted as to why she was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Kit and Kat show up for a short bit, but there's no real context to them showing up other than let's see them pretend to be Aladdin for a scene and steal this guy's money.
Right.
And then we hear about Panthro, but we find out he supposedly died.
Right.
I'm saying supposedly because I've looked through the cast list and they did mention him. And I'm assuming it's not just because of the 3 seconds he's in part 2. Sorry. In part 2.
Yes.
So I'm assuming it's more than that. And then, of course, we get more scenes between Lion-O and Tigra, at least, since they're, in this version, half-brothers. But that's really about it. I mean, like I said earlier, it's designed to be the lead-up to the next episode, because they were all originally one episode that was originally broadcast.
Well, I do want to say one thing. Yeah, my mistake earlier, they're not half-brothers, but they're Tigra is an adopted brother.
Which is the only reason why he wouldn't be firstborn to
exactly
be heir to the throne. Generally, it's the firstborn male, but if he was adopted, then he can't be heir to the throne.
Exactly.
Once there is a legitimate brother, or a legitimate heir, which would be Lion-O.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. It may not be in this episode where he says it. It may be in the next one. But is Tigra the son of Groon?
No.
Okay, it sounded almost like that was a father-son relationship, but maybe if he got adopted, it was before they knew they were getting Lion-O, and they were lining him up to be heir, and some deal with, and that would give credence later on to Groon's actions if that was the case. But if that's not the case, that was just me misreading.
Yeah. No, it's more that Groon and Tigra have known each other for so long that it's almost like a very budding father-son relationship.
All right.
And then you have the butting heads relationship between Tigra and Lion-O.
Well, yes. That makes sense.
Yeah.
They're brothers, for crying out loud.
Yeah, they're brothers, and the fact that
they might as well be blood brothers.
Yeah,
the
fact that we have Tigra is he's more kingly. He has more presence as a leader. He has more of the like Groon says, you would make a perfect king, but Elastic goes to the legitimate heir. And that's the whole argument where it starts they go into the arena and it's okay, let's see if we can prove who's the strongest of them all.
Right.
And of course Lion-O gets his tail kicked.
Well, it's because the leader is not necessarily the strongest fighter.
Agreed.
The person who's the best leader is generally the one who can think more strategically.
That is true.
That's how they got to be king in the first place in some instances.
Yes.
Yes, technically Tigra is the much stronger warrior.
Yeah,
in a warrior culture would, under normal circumstances, make sense as to being perfect candidacy for a king.
Yes.
But let's face it, if Tigra had been in charge, the kingdom still would have fallen, and they may not have been able to get back out of it.
That's possible.
As a spoiler warning for the next one.
Right.
Anyway, I think we've about hit the end of this because we keep bringing up the next episode.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be it for here. So
I think so.
Come, Jacob. We must prepare for next week.
Prepare for what, Drew?
The same thing we do every week, Jacob. Record a podcast.
Oh, boy.
So where can they find you, Jacob?
They can find me on Facebook at Jacob B. Heron and Jacob's Daily Art Corner, my personal art Facebook page. On Twitter at Jacob B. Heron. On Instagram at Jacob B. Heron. and on Letterboxd at Jacob Heron. Where can they find you, Drew?
You can find me on Facebook at Drew Dodgen. You can also find my Facebook page at Drew's Photo Bin, where I upload my photography. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at GGeorge759 and Twitter at GGeorge759. Where can they find us, Jacob?
You can also visit our website, thecellcast.podbean.com, where you will find every episode we released and links to listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. Our RSS feed, if we aren't in your favorite podcast app directory, please share, review, and subscribe to us there and share us with your friends.
You will also find a link to our Facebook group, the Double Feature Podcast Community, where we talk about both animated and live-action movies. We share this with our other podcasts, which we do with Jacob's brother Jim, at the Movie of the Week podcast, where we talk about live-action movies. You can also email us at thecellcastpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please like our page on Facebook. We try to post about upcoming movies. If you comment on that movie's post before we record, we'll read your comments in the episode. And remember, every time we say The Cellcast, that is with a single L.